friends, parents, grandparents, family members, colleagues, esteemed guests, and my dear students, the class of 2016. 1 week ago, we experienced a conflation of events that shed light on the world into which you are heading and on the complexity, challenges, and opportunities of our time. Let me start by acknowledging that we awoke to the horrific news of the mass shooting in Orlando and the devastation to the Latino and LGBT communities. As we celebrate together today, let us keep the victims of this act of terror and their families, along with all victims of terror and violence in Israel and around the world, in our thoughts and our hearts. Last Sunday was Shavuot, the Jewish holiday on which we stand together with generations of Jews to re-experience the revelation of Torah at Mount Sinai and to recommit ourselves to the covenant that is at the heart of our tradition. And as we were recreating this moment from our history, on Sunday night, the Broadway musical Hamilton was making history with its record-breaking 16 Tony Award nominations. So, with apologies to those of you who are not yet obsessed with this musical, don't worry, there's still time. I want to reflect with you today on why Hamilton has taken the world by storm in light of our Sinai experience. 40 years after Sinai, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, the original Jewish educator, had the challenging task of retelling the story to the next generation of Israelites. They stood on the banks of the Jordan River, probably looking forward, not backward, preparing to enter the land of Israel 2 generations after their ancestors received the Torah at Mount Sinai. If you listen carefully to Moshe's brilliant rhetoric, you can hear him addressing timeless challenges of raising up a new generation. Moshe summons the Israelites together, and this is what he says. The Lord our God made a covenant with us at Horeb, Mount Sinai. It was not with our fathers that the Lord made this covenant, but with us, the living, every one of us who is here today. Panim b'panim, face to face, the Lord spoke to you on the mountain out of the fire. I stood between the Lord and you at that time to convey the Lord's words to you because you were afraid of the fire. With all of its repetitions and contradictions, this text is calling out to us to interpret it. First, Moshe uses 5 different epithets for the us with whom God made this covenant. Not with our fathers, with us, the living, every one of us who is here today. Where is the Torah's divine economy of speech? What is prompting this repetitious rhetoric? Second, it's not clear whether this was in fact a panim b'panim, a face-to-face experience, a direct encounter with the divine, or whether Moshe stood between us and mediated the experience because of our fear. Somehow, it seems to be both. I think Moshe has chosen his words carefully and is responding to 2 fundamental challenges with perpetuating any culture, value system, or society. Graduates, these are challenges that I know you have felt, as have I, and so many of us as well. The first is that when you're expected to inherit or pass on something that began a long time before you, you sometimes feel like, this isn't mine. These are not my values, not my texts, not the categories with which I make meaning of the world. This is my parents' or grandparents' Judaism, their Israel, their democracy, their covenant. You sometimes don't feel real ownership over these things, and you certainly don't feel responsibility for them. And to this, Moshe says emphatically, in every way possible, this is not a thing of the past. This is our moment, our God, our Torah, our covenant. It belongs to every one of us in every generation, regardless of our background and beliefs, regardless of how much we know or how we practice. We need the living in order for our past to live on. The second challenge is, quite simply, fear. To stare in the face of the awesome power and responsibilities that come with inheriting a covenant, to stand on the shoulders of giants, to keep alive the collective experiences, values, and wisdom of our people, that's scary. It's easier to be a bystander, to let others mediate the experience for you. And the first generation of Israelites, they recoiled in the face of that fear and never really achieved a level of moral and spiritual independence and maturity. But we crossed the Jordan River, and Moshe did not come with us. There comes a point when you can no longer just ask your teacher, your parent, or even your rabbi. There comes a point when it's on you, face to face. Our past and our future are in your hands. That was Moshe's message to Bnei Yisrael, and that is Hamilton's message to us. These same challenges and this same powerful message are why this musical has become an American cultural phenomenon. The success of this show is due, of course, in part to the poetic genius of Lin-Manuel Miranda's breathtaking lyrics and music. But I think Hamilton is so powerful because it's a unique and culturally relevant form of artistic midrash, interpretive commentary on American history. In our Jewish tradition, one of the ways generation after generation keeps our tradition relevant and alive is through the creativity of our interpretive tradition. When midrash plays with words and makes original and meaningful connections between characters, texts, and ideas, it connects our present with our past, interweaving the stories of those who've come before us with our contemporary lives. We begin to see ourselves in them, so they live on through us. Like so much great art, midrash is a panim b'panim, a face-to-face medium that empowers and inspires. This is what the poetic darshan, Lin-Manuel Miranda, has done by setting the story of our founding fathers and the American Revolution to hip-hop, by casting African American, Latino, and other minorities as almost every character in the show, including the first presidents of the United States of America, by bringing American history to life through theater, and by weaving timeless social, political, and moral themes that have never been more pressing and relevant than they are today. Today, our country faces serious existential questions. Whose America is this? What will be the nature of our democracy? Who will have a voice? At a time when so many minorities and young people feel marginalized and left out of the American story, when it might be easier to check out or blame others, the creators and performers of Hamilton are using their God-given gifts and the Broadway stage to say, it was not with our ancestors that our founding fathers made this covenant and created this great nation. It is with us, the living, every one of us who is here today. With our medium and our message, we are going to stand and be counted, stake our claim, and take responsibility for our future. Class of 2016, you are graduating at a time when we face so many questions as Americans, as Jews, and as citizens of a beautiful and interconnected, yet changing and confusing world. I know you know this because I've watched, listened, and learned as you've begun to wrestle with many of these questions over the past 4 years. As we've already heard today, you've been at the center of conversations about gender and identity in our school, pushing us to challenge our assumptions and creating an all-gender bathroom. Your leadership made this process a smooth and natural extension of our shared values. You have reimagined an Israel Club that is a space for students to express their love of Israel and is a space where we can have honest, hard conversations about Israel without vilifying one another. Graduates, you are already leading the way, and our broader community has much to learn from you. Through your art, your journalism, your sports commentaries, your moot-baiting victories, your creation of new clubs and organizations, your courageous challenging of controversial guest speakers, your protests about dress code or about which books we should or should not teach. You have been anything but passive participants in our covenantal community. For many of you, this activism and engagement, large or small, that you've shown inside these walls is already moving out into the broader Jewish community and the world. But the call for your civic participation, your leadership, and your ethical followership begins in earnest when you walk out those doors in a few minutes. As much as I don't want to let you go, the world out there needs you badly. My dear students, I don't think I need to tell you how fragile the futures of our American democracy and our Jewish people sometimes feel. In the face of that fragility, many people, especially young people, will opt to disengage or to check out. Like that second generation of Israelites, we're probably feeling, this isn't mine anyway, or it's just too scary to invest myself when I don't know how this will turn out, or when I might take some bumps and bruises along the way. I'd like to tell you that you can rely on our leaders as beacons of hope for tomorrow. I'd like to tell you that you can wait a while, take your time, see how things play out. The truth is, we need you and your generation to lead the way into our future. That future starts now, and you are ready, intellectually, morally, and with a strong sense of your Jewish selves and the extraordinary people you've become. You are graduating with the skills and the knowledge to be successful in anything you pursue. May you have the patience and humility to live gracefully in a complex and imperfect world. May you have the moral courage and convictions to stand up for what you believe is right, even when it's unpopular. May you have the drive and perseverance to work to close the gap between the way the world is and the way you know the world could and should be. And may you have the self-knowledge and openness to learn from everyone and every experience, so you gain wisdom as you make your way through the world and find meaning and purpose along the way. We love you and we'll miss you. Just one more thing. Just one more thing. Inspired by Hamilton, I'd like to take this opportunity to give one last tribute to the class of 2016. How does a motley crew of ninth grade Jews who are eager, ready to start a new experience on Forest Street, where they would meet from different schools, our feeders, grow up to be these scholars and these leaders? The hard workers, high achievers, and believers did so much learning by consistently turning midnight oil, always burning, easy answers they're spurning by 10th grade. Into young adults they were turning. For 4 years, in tears, many other students chased their peers with fears. They tried to win the race, but this class, it was striving to rise up, face up to bigger callings, from girls in STEM to Grateful Dead to Lace Up. As the years went by, these young souls began to fly. With such intense drive, their sense of purpose makes you sigh. On their different journeys, they would constantly ask why, with a sparkle in their eye, a spirit that makes you cry. When it came time for college, we said, this class is insane, man. 41 places, and just look at all those names, Gan. Now take all your courage and get out and change the game. And the world's gonna know your name. What's your name, man? Class of 2016. Right. Yeah.